Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Formula 4. We are back after a week off. Well, it wasn't a week off for our drivers, but it was a week off the stream, as I was unfortunately unable to attend the Australian Grand Prix. But the drivers were going at it off the cameras, and I will be able to tell you the results of that Grand Prix. I believe, well, they came across the line. I know who finished first on track, but I'm not quite sure about the penalties situation. And I can tell you that it was Glock who was the first person to cross the line, so he looked like to have won the race with Chazza P2 and Pillars P3 and Denge P4 all shot down P5, and Chewy rounded out the top 6. But that was round 13 in Australia, and tonight it is round 14 at the magnificent Circuit Paul Ricard here in France, as qualifying 1 is underway, and first of 19 drivers here this evening will be looking to have the best points score possible. And I will run you through the championship standings after 13 rounds, and it is Alan who returns to the top on 208 points, with Glock 2 points behind him on 206, and Pillars, who is 2 points behind the second of the Nintendo cars. Then you got Andenge and Droftas closely behind. Then you got the likes of Bannister, who's obviously taken over from Paul Orange. He's up to 6th with 176 points, with Total P's, Blaze, Chazza and Matteo rounded out the championship top 10. To the pots, you have Glock leading pot 1, Alan leading pot 2 as he is championship leader, Matteo leading pot 3, and it's an all Nintendo pot 4, all Nintendo top in the pots, with Chewy top in pot 4 as Infamous Pillars here obviously in third in our championship here at Formula 4. Obviously you can see the MTV livery, obviously very different compared to the real life Formula 1. You don't have 10 teams in Formula 4. You have 4 pots of 5 teams, and they're all allocated by pace and speed, which is obviously very nice to see that there's battles going on everywhere here in Formula 4. And we do have a couple of reserves. Nico Carr is back with us in that reserve car, as well as Just Mikey 2509. I haven't seen him before. He might have been here last time out in Australia, but obviously we weren't here as a stream. And we've got Luke, who will be joining later on as he's got commentary duties, as Pillars starts his first lap of Q1 as he comes across the line, which is obviously a little bit further away than the ones from previous years, as he enters the first chicane, a very tricky high-speed chicane, before going down this little back straight before entering the second chicane, which is a little bit slower. Obviously you approach the right-hander of turn 5. Welcome to the stream, everyone. You haven't missed much, just qualifying is underway, and then through the flat turn 7 there's a lapped car, there's not a lapped car, there's a slow car in front of him, which is going to be his teammate Chaz, and he's got out the way, which the MTV car does. He brakes into turn 8 and 9, and he had another chicane that leads to turn 10. Now the next part of the circuit, turn 11, is fascinating to drive at, the flat out right-hander, and Pillars is doing that exactly in 8th gear, before breaking in to this very tricky double right-hander. Make sure you have to get that one right and get on exit, especially with power, and then this tricky left-hander, turn 12, before opening up the car for turn 13, before diving right before flicking the car left for yet another double apex left-hander before the final corner. And streams are set at 1 minute 30.519. This will be a little bit quicker, I think, from Pillars, and it's a 1:28.283. That puts him at the top of the tree early on in Q1. Total P's, we obviously know what this man has got, as he'll be looking for improvements in the standings. Obviously he missed the first few races with us in Formula 4, so he is he's back now, and he'll be looking for a push, especially in the driver's standings, but he's definitely got the pace to compete with the faster cars. But hopefully he'll be able to do it tonight, as Matteo goes P2 with a 128.444. Bannister, who's now been allocated the JCB livery, as you can see the yellow and black livery there. He is in P3 with a 130.366, as we're on board with total Ps as he enters the turn 8 and 9 chicane. And we're set for a fascinating race. Hopefully it will be all dry, as hopefully we don't have any rain to interfere with us this evening, as the drivers look to score more points, and they'll be looking for an even better performance like we've seen for the majority of the season here at Formula 4. This is our first season on the PS4 console, and this is round 14 here at Circuit Paul Ricard in France, as P is about to wrap up the lap here going into the final corner. It did look okay from what I've seen, as he'll come up to the line. Obviously the line's a little bit further away than what it normally is, and he cuts the beam and he puts himself up to the top of the tree with a 127.779. Chazza follows suit behind with 128.1. He's definitely emerged on in the last few races with his pace, and he's been up there with his Tier 1 teammate Pillars, and it's evident again here in Q1 that he is certainly up for it here in France, and hopefully we'll be seeing other drivers come across to set the laps. Sotoff won't be setting a lap as he's dived into the pits, and Paul Watson is at the exit of turn 10 going into turn 11 now. There's a couple of cars in the way, but he avoids them, and he's on board here obviously in pot 4. He's in second place in the pot 4 championship, and obviously Chewy's been doing a fantastic job to lead that title, and I believe that's Andenge setting in his first lap, which is just about a couple of hundredths away from a couple of tenths away from Pillars, and a couple of hundredths in front of Matteo. But this is what Paul Watson's going to produce in his first run of qualifying one. He takes a very short approach to the line, and he crosses the line to set a 131.1. That puts him P10 for now, the slowest of all drivers, but there's still just shy of half the field. He had set a lap, and on board though championship leader Elon. He'll be looking for a quick lap just to get himself into the next part of qualifying, and he'll be hopefully be set for yet another Q3 spot. Welcome all to the stream. My name's Yeston, and you'll be sat here for an enthralling qualifying session. This is Q1, where we lose, well, I believe we lose 4 drivers. So from 19 to 15, 15 fastest will go into Q2, then we'll be from 15 to 10 as we move into Q3. Put your predictions down for qualifying below, as I think it will be pretty impressive this qualifying session. As I can see, we've got Gav is very happy that Formula 4 is back on air, and I am as well. So this is what we want and would love to see here tonight on our Monday evenings. And Alan is completing a lap here round the Paul Ricard circuit. He'll be hoping for a good lap here just to get himself a benchmark in, and that's what he'll want. Is Paul Watson there in front of him who dives into the pits. Obviously the pit lane did change when they first originally came here. You had to dive into the pits right about there, but it changed for safety reasons I believe last year, or 2019 I should say. And Alan puts himself P4 with a 128.309. That will do nicely for him so far, as we still wait for a few others. Got the likes of Xerxes, Bannister, Streams all setting lap times, and Nico Carr is out and out lap. LP is on a lap, but slow. But someone who is on a lap is Glock in the Nintendo, is obviously P2 in the championship, and Gav predicts it'll be Glock on pole, P's in P2, and Infamous Pillars in P3. We are on board with Glock, who looks like to have changed the livery ever since the last time I've seen him race in Formula 4, as he enters turn 11, turn 10, my apologies, and he looks fine now on a lap. Does make sure he didn't need to cut that much of that apex, but he's got away with it. No invalidation yet. Obviously, it's very easy to take too much curb or run wide at this circuit, so we have to be wary of track limits, especially on the curbs, because maybe you think you can take a certain amount, and then next thing you know, you've got a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. And this is what Glock's going to do. His first lap time of the day, it will be a 1:27.6. That's good enough to be the fastest man on the timesheet so far. Droftas obviously back after he was absent from the Canadian Grand Prix, and he is back here in France, and he'll be looking for a place in Q2 as well, as he is also on a lap after seeing Glock take the fastest spot. And it's nice to see that we've got a good attendance here in terms of supporters who have up to 10, which is brilliant to see for such a relatively new league. As Gav, that's Dan who's saying evening, and it's a very good name for Gavila there. I'm impressed with that one. But back to the action, and Droftas is finishing off his first qualifying one run, and he shifts down to first gear there to get the front wing in for the car, and you come across the line to set a 1:28.4. That puts him in P6 for now, as we still wait for Sloth to set a lap time. And you say that, he's starting one now, and there's still a couple of drivers out, and I think Sloth will be the only one that's setting a meaningful lap time, I believe, as he exits the first chicane. Runs a little bit wide, but he gets away with it, but that will cost him a bit of time as he enters the second chicane, and hopefully he'll be looking for a place in Q2. He's shown his glimpses so far this season as Sloth. Certainly hasn't been acting like one, as he's shown some real quick pace earlier on in the Formula 4 season. But there's a Q1 exit in Canada last time we saw of him, so hopefully there'll be no repeat of that for the MTV car, as they've got a full list of 4 drivers. They'd all want all 4 of them to be in the race for the top 10, and obviously BMW are slacking tonight. There's only Ramsell and I think all shut down as well, so those 2 are still in the car, so they'll be looking to carry the BMW boys who are out there. Pot 1 driver Blaze, who has occasionally been absent in Formula 4, but they'll have to stick with all shut down and Ramsell. Ramsell currently down in 18th, all shut down in P9. Let's see what Sloth can do on this lap. There's a Jaguar in front of him, and unfortunately Sloth is invalid on the way round, so they have to go again. So there's a bit of tyre percentage that has been wasted there, so he will go again. There's a couple of people starting out laps early. Bannister, Xerxes and Chewy. They'll be all looking to go, well, technically through the gap. It's obviously far more quieter on track with with less cars about, so they're all taking advantage of that, as some more drivers exit the pit who are back on board with Sloth. We'll be looking for improvement. Obviously his first lap he invalid, and that lap would have been a 31.9 I believe, which has kept him in P19. So hopefully this lap will be a little bit better and a little bit quicker, as there's less than 5 minutes left in this session now, and he really needs to get a lap time in, as he's the only one that hasn't set a competitive lap time here in Q1. And Total Peas is retired in the pit lane, I believe, so he'll be thinking, right, that's him into Q2, and as well for Glock. So they think they're pretty confident, as they're the only 2 drivers in the 1:27s. They think are good enough to be into Q2, and Matteo thinks that as well, as he is down in P8 with a 1:28.4. He thinks that's good enough. We're on board with Sloth, who desperately needs to get a lap in. He's running out of time, and he might even run out of tyres if this one is an invalidation. He runs wide there, and yes it is. There's the second invalidation, and that could prove costly, as he jumps into the pit, and I believe he will need a new set of tyres, because those softs will be gone. And Paul Watson is invalid on this lap as well, and another attempt for him. And Streams is on an out lap. Ramsell's on an out lap. Xerxes is on a lap. He's a 10th and a bit down, well, nearly 2 tenths down on his personal best in the middle sector. Let's see if the last sector will fare any better for him, with just under 4 minutes left in Q1. Hopefully Xerxes will book a place into Q2. He obviously did in Canada last time we were on stream, so hopefully he can do it again and help the MTV boys to secure further points in the race this time. Unlike Canada, we had a bit of a disaster, if I'm more or less. There was a really poor lap one for him. But let's see what this lap will be. It's going to be a 1:30.1. That's just slightly down by just over 200ths. So he remains P14. And Bannister looks to be improving on this lap. Obviously, we've seen him before in the Formula 4 reserve car, but this is him in his JCB livery, as he's joined JCB as a replacement for Paul the Orange, who was with us before but has unfortunately departed the league. And let's see what Bannister can do. It's obviously in P15, and he comes across the line to set a 1:30.230. That keeps him in P15, but that does improve his lap time a little bit by over a tenth, so he'll be a little bit disappointed that he hasn't gained any positions, as it's quite close between him and just Mikey in P13 in the reserve car. Just under 2 tenths, and hopefully they'll be able to get even more improvement out of that if they get into Q2. Ramsellers in stands is going out of Q1. He'll be looking for a lap time to fly himself into the Q2 spots. What can he produce? There's a BMW all shot down going into the pits there. He might have been giving him a little bit of a boost in the slipstream department. Here comes Ramsell. It's going to be a 1:30.6. That puts him at the P17, but I don't think that'll be good enough for the BMW, and it looks like he could be out in Q1. He'll go again, and Sloth is back out, hopefully on a new set of tyres, because the last one he used, I don't think they'd be very good right now. Here is the reserve car of Mikey, who's striking a little bit of a different livery. I'm sure the admins will accept that is a very nice livery. Reminds me of a zebra, but it's a very striking Formula 4 reserve car livery that Mikey is showing on display here tonight. And I believe that's Streams, who has jumped himself up into P13 with a 1:29.602. That's a very good lap from the JCB car, and puts himself all but in qualifying to the next part of qualifying. And we're still waiting for Paul Watson to run wide. He needs to get round the circuit, does Paul Watson, if he wants to set a lap, as well as Sloth, who is, well, he's in the last sector, so hopefully he'll be able to set a lap time here in Q1, as he'll be looking just to get a lap on the board, even if it's not good enough for Q2. But I'm sure he'll be wanting a place in Q2. And here he goes with 30 odd seconds to go. He will cross the line with 32 seconds left, as Andenge thinks his place is good enough for Q2. He's in P7. He looks to be safe. As on board with Sloth, he exits the first chicane, going down into the second chicane. Make sure he needs to get the apex right, and he exits turn 5 and enters turn 6. Make sure he needs to get as much as the track as he can, and that's what he does, as Nico Carr goes P10 with a 1:29.1 as qualifying is over. So I believe Paul Watson will be out of this session, and we're still on board with Sloth. Ramsell, on the other hand, he's down in his first sector, so it doesn't look good for him in the BMW. But what can Sloth provide here at the latter stages of Q1? On board with him now, as I believe that's LP. He's crept himself into the top 10 with a 108.8 to put himself P9. That's a very good lap from the Jaguar car. Let's see what Sloth can do as he enters the very tricky double right-hander, which he does do a good job of, in fairness. Now this tricky left-hander caught him out the second time. Will it catch him out again? No. He keeps himself on the track there as he goes into turn number 15. Oh, there's turn number 14 and 15. There's turn number 15, the final corner. My apologies. He opens the RS. What will this be? He's ran out of ARS. So he comes across the line to set a 1:28.6. That's good enough for P9. That will see him safely through into the next part of qualifying. And Ramsell is coming across the line, and it won't be good enough for the BMW, as Luke's joined us in the lobby, and we'll be hoping for a place. We'll be starting from P20 and last.
I want a rest when I come and have a bath.
Alright. So there we are for Q1. Glock takes the top spot. Total P's in P2. Chazza P3. Pillars P4. Aylan P9. LP in P10. And you've got All Shot Down, Niku Car Chewy, Xerxes Streams. And then you've got out in Q1 is just Mikey, who's just crept in there the last second. Bannister, Ramsell, Paul Watson, all out. And those are intermediates from the NTV. And a bit of us intermediates from Nico Car, the reserve car. So it looks like it will be intermediates for the time being. And in saying that, and Denge is going out on the mediums. He thinks it's dry enough to get a lap in on the slicks and get himself into. Oh no, it is all dries. All dries here in France, and it's at that condition where it's, and DRS has been disabled, so I don't think it is time for dry tyres. It looks like it's time for the intermediates as the drivers quest on their out laps, and hopefully they'll be able to either set a lap or come into the pits. I think it's time for the intermediates, and looks like that I Am Sloth will be looking to return to the pits. He doesn't think it's dry enough, as Andenge is trying to test the waters here in France, but the rain is coming down in Circuit Paul Ricard, and it doesn't look like we'll be seeing any dry running in the set in Q2, which obviously, if they all go out on the intermediates, it would mean that they'd all start on a fresh set of dry tyres if the race is dry. So that would be somewhat of a bonus for all drivers, but Andenge will be sticking out as he locks up into turn 15, and it looks like he will start a lap as the other drivers are tiptoeing around on their out laps, and Andenge is on a flying lap as he flies down the back straight going into turn 1. It's going to be tractorous as he locks up into turn 1. Goes down to third gear there. And it doesn't look like it is dry weather tyres at all here in France. And he breaks into the second chicane and runs wide. LP, he's picked up a 5-second grid penalty for a collision with Streams. So something's going on in the background as some drivers opt to pit and some don't. But Andenge didn't. And he's tiptoeing his way around this circuit. And he's not even flat through turn 7. Now he manages to throttle down, obviously no DRS, so that will be a bit of a... What? Not really. Yeah. Do apologise, we are returned. There's something going on. And Denge is still going on this lap on the mediums. So he'll be hoping for a lap time that's good enough for Q2. I'm not sure if it will be though, as there's a couple of drivers that have gone to the pits. As they're gonna put a set of intermediates on as Andenge. Will he finish the lap? I think he will. Yes, he will. And this will not be as quick as what we saw in the first session by any means. He needs to floor it now. He's just about to get it down now. This is going to be a 1:54.8. Puts him fastest, but obviously he's the only driver to start a lap. And the others are just tiptoeing around. Yeah, what? Yeah.
They're not commissioned in a couple of weeks. They have to go till summer term.
Oh dear.
At least you had 3 months off last year.
Yeah. Hmm. As there's 10 minutes left here in Q2. Only a handful of drivers setting lap times as looks like it's Glock who's topped the tree with a 1:53.7. There he is in a Nintendo car.